recreate yourself, reinvent yourself for the new year, how to make this year your year, and how to really be yourself. Hello, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am so pleased to have you here. Let's, before we get started, take a really nice deep conscious breath, inhaling fully through the nostrils and then exhaling through the mouth. Let it all go. Let's do that one more time. Inhaling and exhaling. I think I sing a little bit when I talk, like, and exhaling, inhaling and exhaling. All right, in this video, in this episode, I want to talk to you all about how to really recreate yourself, reinvent yourself for the new year, how to make this year your year, and how to really be yourself and show up as yourself, as your truest, most authentic self in this new year. I love a new year. I love the energy that a new year brings. I love the hope and possibility that a new year brings. I love the opportunity to reflect, which I often do towards the end of the year. And if you watched my latest video, you would have seen me doing a bit of a life reset. But I love this opportunity to reflect, to stop and to pause, to take stock of our lives, and then to really get intentional about what it is that we want, what it is that we want to create for ourselves, what it is that we want to manifest, how we want to be, who we want to be, and the energy that we really want to bring to this new year. I think it's just such a beautiful opportunity to kind of get clarity around what's really important to us, because when we're so caught up in our day-to-day lives, when we're so caught up in the busyness and the chaos of everyday life, it can be really easy to get distracted. It can be really easy to lose focus, to put our attention and our focus, some of our most important resources, onto the things that don't matter, getting caught up in all of the stresses of life, getting caught up in all of the mundane things we need to do, and getting caught up in looking outside of ourselves, looking at what everyone else is doing, and then comparing ourselves and our lives to others. And that really takes us away from what is important to us, and it really takes us away from who we really are. And this is where I find that tools like meditation and mindfulness that I talk a lot about, that I teach, can be so helpful in allowing us to quieten down some of that outside noise, to take a step back from all of the chaos, even if it is just for 5 minutes in our day. This can have such a huge impact on the way we move through our day, the way we move through our life, to have that space and that clarity to reconnect with who we really are. And so in this video, I'm going to be talking and sharing with you some of the things that can really help you to reconnect with yourself, to really reconnect with who you are, and to make this your year, to show up as yourself, to be yourself, and to reinvent yourself. If you feel like who you have been in the past is no longer representative, it no longer resonates, it no longer serves you, if you feel like who you've been in the past is no longer who you want to be, the beautiful thing is that in any moment you can make a choice to change direction. You can make a choice to be someone else. You don't have to identify with who you've been in the past. And so this kind of brings me to the first point. But before I get onto that, I wanted to share a little bit of a story. I recently burnt out. I recently hit a point where I was just so stressed and so overwhelmed and so exhausted, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I was just at a point of complete burnout, and this hasn't happened to me for quite some time. I've been through burnout many times in my life, but it hasn't hit me for a long time because I have been practicing mindfulness and meditation and self-care and all of these beautiful well-being practices. There's really loud birds outside my window. We live in the country, so it's kind of inevitable. But yeah, I've just been really taking care of myself for the past 5 or so years, really intentionally. And the stress of Christmas, the stress of the holidays in just this December that we've had really caught up with me. And I know I recorded a podcast about this, talking about how I find this time of year, like the holiday season, really challenging. And it really was bringing up all of these patterns that I had just kind of accepted, these patterns of stress, these patterns of people pleasing, saying yes to everything, doing what was expected of me, going to all of the things, making all of the things, buying presents, you know the drill. And I really just feel like it was coming up for me to finally look at these things, these patterns, and address them, and to start to question them and be like, this is not who I really want to be. This is not how I want to live my life. These are not the patterns that I want to continue and that I want to pass on to my children when we eventually have a family. So, you know, it was a real eye opener for me. It was a real realization of, this is a pattern that's showing itself, it's revealing itself to me, that I am now ready to let go of and ready to release. This is something that I've been attached to that no longer serves me, and I'm now letting it go. And so this kind of brings me to the first point that I want to talk about, which is this idea of deciding what you want to carry with you into the new year, and deciding what you want to let go of, deciding the things that no longer serve you, that you're ready to release. And in fact, there's a trend that's been going around on TikTok recently that I've seen, which is like 2024 ins and outs. And I love it because I think it really gets people to think about what they are a stand for and what they are no longer a stand for, what they want to bring with them into the new year, and what they want to leave and say goodbye to and let go of in the old year, in the previous year. And what this really brings me to is a mindfulness practice, which is non-attachment. It's letting go. It's not attaching ourselves to things that no longer serve us. It's releasing the things that we don't want to carry anymore. And this can really be so freeing, and it can really be so liberating to be able to say, I don't want to carry this with me any longer. I don't want to bring this with me into this next new year. So I wanted to share some of my own personal ins and outs. So for me, my ins are, well, let's start with the outs, because that's, you know, the things we're letting go of. So self-doubt is a huge one. I've dealt with a lot of self-doubt, particularly in the last year. It's really come to the surface for me. I've realized just how much I get in my own way by doubting myself. I really want to let go of perfectionism. It kind of rears its ugly head from time to time. I really do feel like I've overcome a lot of perfectionism, but it definitely still comes up where I feel like I don't fully put myself out there because there's a part of me that's afraid of being seen imperfectly, and there's a part of me that likes everything to be perfect before I do the thing or before I share the thing. And you know, it's a fine line, because I am someone who loves things to be really beautiful, and I love creating things that are really aesthetic. If you look at my social media, you'll see how I do love to create beauty, and that's something that's really important to me. But there's a fine line between beauty and creativity and self-expression, and then also perfectionism and not putting something out there that's quote unquote imperfect. And so that's something that I'm letting go of, perfectionism. Another out for me is taking life too seriously. This has really come up for me recently. I've realized just how serious I can be. And I'm even just feeling like I need to take a breath and just like release some of this tension. Let's do a deep breath. Like, we just don't need to take life so seriously. I mean, yes, there are serious things going on in the world. Yes, there is to an extent, a requirement to be responsible and to have some sort of serious, taking things seriously to a certain degree. But I think we've lost the sense of joy and levity and the ability to just not be so serious, to have fun, to play. And in fact, I'm reading a book at the moment called Feel Good Productivity. I just got it and I've just been reading it since I got it yesterday. And he talks about, the author Ali, I'll leave it all linked below, but he talks about this idea of sincerity over seriousness. So instead of being serious, we can be sincere. And this whole idea is that you don't want to be uncaring. So sometimes when we think that we think being serious is good because it means that we care, it means that we are, not being completely unserious and not caring about things at all. But this idea of switching it to sincerity, to having a sincere engagement in things rather than being serious. And that's something that I'm really ready to let go of, because I've recognized just how much I take myself and life too seriously, and it just doesn't serve me in the slightest. So it's an out. It's going out. The next thing that I'm letting go of is overconsumption. This is a big one. And it comes in many shapes and forms. So when I talk about overconsumption, I mean material things, buying unnecessary things. I also talk about overconsumption. I mean overconsumption when it comes to social media. So being really mindful of what I'm consuming, the information that I'm consuming, the things that I'm taking in, whether it's food, all of the, actual things I'm consuming physically, but then also like information that I'm taking in, social media. And in fact, I really want to focus on creation over consumption. I want to be a creator, but not a consumer so much, because I've recognized just how, again, unhelpful that is for me when I'm getting caught up in looking at what other people are doing, recognizing that it doesn't serve me. It's better for me to just stay in my lane, to focus on what I'm creating and not get distracted or taken away with what other people are doing. And also just being really intentional about the things that I am consuming. Of course, I love listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos and listening to audiobooks and reading books, but it's like choosing what I want to consume rather than letting these things kind of consume me. All right, next up is mindless scrolling. I mean, that really goes hand in hand with what I've just shared. I don't want to be wasting my time and my energy and my attention, these precious, precious resources, mindlessly on things like social media. It just doesn't serve me, so it's an out. Okay, negative self-talk. This is a big one for me. I have recognized just how much I can be so self-critical. I think we all can. And so negative self-talk, I'm going to be really practicing, noticing when it comes up, and then reframing it and seeing where I can speak to myself more compassionately, more lovingly, more kindly. Overwork. This is a big one. I really want to release this pressure and this need to be constantly working, to be putting pressure on myself. I want my work to come through me. I want what I'm creating to come from this place of sincerity, like I was saying before, not being over serious. I want what I'm creating to come from my heart and my spirit and to flow through me with this energy of devotion and joy and play and excitement, rather than this force and this energy of feeling like I have to be doing things, feeling like I have to be putting lots of content out or creating podcasts or other offerings for my business. I want it to come from a place of joy and peace and presence and ease and flow, all of these things. So for me, overworking is out in 2024. Comparison is another big one. I find that when I am over consuming social media, scrolling, things like that, I can easily get caught up in the comparison trap. And so I think that that will just come as a byproduct of not mindlessly scrolling and not over consuming these things, is that I will be able to release that comparison, or just not get caught up in that comparison and looking at what other people are doing. External validation, that's another really big one for me. I have a tendency to get caught up in seeking validation. I mean, we all want to be loved and accepted, and things like social media can be such a trap because we can easily seek that love and acceptance from other people telling us how good we are, telling us through likes and views and comments and all of these vanity metrics that we have on things like social media. I know I'm sure that most content creators can resonate with this, can relate to this feeling of getting caught up in the numbers and getting caught up in seeking validation outside of ourselves. But I really want to switch this in the new year to, again, just be focusing on me, and not in a selfish way, but in a really just like connected way, in a really grounded way, knowing that my worth is inherent as it is for you, not needing to look outside of me for this validation, to be told that I am worthy, that I'm good enough, that I'm loved and accepted. And the truth is, and this is just coming to me right now, is that it will never be enough. If we're looking outside of ourselves, it will never ever be enough, which is why we can get caught up in needing more money, needing more views, likes, needing more followers, needing more attention. It's a never ending pursuit. And so can we find that from within? Can we come back to that inherent worthiness within and not need that external validation? And then this also goes hand in hand with my last out, which is feeling inadequate. And that comes when we are looking outside of ourselves. This feeling of inadequacy comes when we are needing and seeking validation, needing other people to tell us that we're good enough because we don't feel good enough within. I think it's something that so many of us struggle with, and that's going to be a real focus for me in the new year with what I'm sharing, with what I'm creating, is just reminding you of your inherent worthiness, reminding you that you don't need to look outside of you to feel good enough, that you can come back here. I know I keep placing my hand on my heart, but it's true. It's all within. It's all here. And I hope that my meditations and my videos and whatever it is that I'm creating can help you to connect with that. So now we're going to go to the ins for the new year. And most of these actually, I will say, are kind of like the flip side of what I've just talked about, like the opposite. And so, for example, the first in for me is self-belief, and that is the opposite of all this self-doubt that I've experienced, and that constantly comes up for me. We're really stepping into our belief in the new year. We are not going to listen to those voices of doubt. We can notice them. We can acknowledge that they're there, and this is where mindfulness and being really present can help us to notice those voices as they come up, but we're not going to buy into them. We're going to see them for what they are. They're just fear. They're just fear trying to keep us safe, trying to keep us in our comfort zone, trying to keep us in the known space that we've always been in. But actually where we want to go, those big dreams that we have, the things that we really want to create, putting ourselves out there, showing up as ourselves, being ourselves and expressing ourselves, is on the other side of that fear. It's having the courage to see the fear and the doubt and all of the stories, to see them, but to not let them run the show. So be talking about this a lot more. Showing up imperfectly. This is the next in. So like I said before, letting go of perfectionism, just showing up, just giving things a go. For me, this YouTube channel is really going to be an experiment this year. I really want to commit to uploading regularly. I want to do weekly videos, and I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know how I'm going to go creating videos each week, but it is something that I really want to commit to. And so as part of that, I need to just kind of let go of perfectionism and show up imperfectly and just give things a go, like embrace the journey, embrace the unknown, and just try things. You'll never know if you don't try. Okay, what else is in? Trusting the process, trusting ourselves, trusting life, trusting the process, making space for fun and play. Like I said before, not taking life so seriously, allowing ourselves to have fun. This is one of the questions that he asked in the book that I'm reading, is what would it look like to make this fun? So with anything that we're doing, whether it's cleaning the kitchen or I don't know, creating a YouTube video. What would it look like to make this fun? And how can we start to invite in a little bit more play, playfulness, curiosity, creativity into what it is that we're doing? Mindful consumption. Again, like I said before, just being really intentional with where we're consuming. I mean, these are all my ins and outs. You'll probably have your own version of them, but just being really conscious of what it is that we're taking in, whether that is food, drinks, like physically consuming things, or whether it is the information that we're taking in, the social media, the messaging that we're listening to. Where are you placing your attention? That is so pivotal to the programming, the messaging, what you're receiving. And this can really shape our perspective and our outlook. If we're focusing on things that make us feel really disempowered, that feel negative, that kind of feed into that negative self-talk that I was talking about before, then that is going to be our experience. But if we're focusing on things that really make us feel empowered, that take us away from being a victim, that make us feel like we can really, that feed our self-belief, then that is what we're going to see. So it's really tuning our attitude and our perception to the experience that we want to have. Okay, empowering self-talk. I mean, I think that kind of speaks for itself. Devotion to my practices. This is going to be a big one. Really devoting myself to the daily practices that make me feel good, that help me to feel aligned, that help me to, again, connect back with myself, to really feel that inherent sense of worth that I was talking about before. We all have it. It's just that we can get disconnected from it. So those practices, and I know I've talked about this before, the purpose of mindfulness, the purpose of presence, the purpose of all of these wellness practices is to feel good, because feeling good is then the conduit to being ourselves, is the conduit to being able to express ourselves most truly, which is what I really am so passionate about. Okay, rest and self-care. I mean, that goes hand in hand with devotion to practices, but really making space and time for rest and self-care in the new year. And I'm going to be sharing lots and lots of ways that you can do this, and my own personal journey in, again, letting go of this need to overwork, this programming, let's just call it what it is, this conditioning that I've received, and I know many of us have, that we need to, in order to be worthy, we need to be constantly doing, constantly working, constantly putting things out there, and it's just not sustainable. We will burn out. We can't sustain that. So prioritizing rest and self-care and presence, really being present each and every day, learning to notice, practicing noticing what is and being with what is. Following my own path is another really, again, letting go of what everyone else is doing and just being so true to my own path and to following my own unique path. And I think that that's what we're really all here to do, is to follow our own unique path. But the problem is that we get caught up in all of the expectations of the outside world. We get caught up in societal pressures and everyone else's opinions and the things that we've been told that we need to do in order to have a good life or a successful life. So learning again to quieten down some of that outside noise and to come back to ourselves and come back to what's important, and to be able to trust our own path, and that, we are the only ones on this journey, on our own journey. There's a beautiful Rumi quote which I love, which is, "It is your road and yours alone. Others can walk it with you, but no one can walk it for you." I think that that's the quote. I'll put it up on the screen and below if you'd like to see it. But it is just a reminder that we are all on our own unique path in life. And so that's really going to be a focus for me in the new year, is to just stay focused, to stay in my lane, on my own path, and to not get caught up in what everyone else is doing. Listening to my heart. I mean, I think, again, that just speaks for itself, but really listening to my heart, trusting myself. And then the last in that I have is self-worth. So again, just connecting back with that inherent sense of self-worth day in and day out. And it is a practice, and it really does take time, I think, to create that space in our lives to come back to that truth that we are worthy. Just being here is enough. We don't have to do anything to be worthy, but I know that that's easier said than done, and it is a practice. So now that we're clear on our ins and our outs for the new year, I think that it's a really important step now to release those things. And whether you want to have some sort of practice where you write down what you're letting go of, the things that you no longer want to carry with you into the new year, the things that you really just want to release and let go of. You might like to write them down on a piece of paper. You might like to rip them up. You might like to burn them. If you're going to do this, just be really safe and careful. But just having some sort of way of releasing them. Something that I've been doing a lot of recently is EFT tapping. And I'm actually planning to get an accreditation so that I can teach EFT tapping and so that I can share it on here in the coaching that I do, in the private sessions, just with whatever I'm sharing, because I think it is a great modality to really help us to release the emotional attachment that we have to things, and to help us to move through things and to let things go. So whatever that looks like to you, I really encourage you to have some form of letting go, and that might be a meditation for letting go. I know I've done a lot of this in my own, with the clients that I've worked with, is working on forgiveness, forgiving ourselves, forgiving other people. And I recorded a separate podcast episode, which I'll leave linked below. That was before I was uploading these onto YouTube, so it's just an audio version, but I've done a whole episode on forgiveness because I think it is such an important part of letting go, of releasing attachment, of really releasing things from our past in order to move forward, to move into our future. And I think that there's a misconception with forgiveness that it means that we are condoning what's happened, that we're saying that we're happy with or we're okay with what's happened to us. But rather, I encourage you to think of it as a way of taking your power back, a way of moving from being the victim of your circumstances to a more empowered, the creator of your experience, and saying that this thing no longer has a hold over me and I'm free. It's really about setting ourselves free. And I think it's the same with anything that doesn't serve us any longer, whether it's a habit, a pattern, a belief system, something that we're holding on to, a resentment, anything that no longer serves us. We're setting ourselves free by releasing the attachment to it, by releasing the hold that it has over ourselves. And it's really for us. It's not about the other person. If it is in the case of forgiving someone else, it's not about them, it's about us. It's about taking our power back and coming back again to ourselves, which we can't really do if we are still caught up in the past, caught up in what's happened to us. So feeling, of course, the emotions and the pain and the sadness and the grief and all of the things that go along with these things, these experiences that have happened to us, in order to move through them and let them go and release them so that we can be free. Okay, so the next thing that I am doing, and that I encourage you to do if you want to recreate yourself, reinvent yourself, and really make this your year, is to create a new self-concept. This idea of self-concept has become very popular recently, and it is really about identity. It's really about who we think we are. And it really goes back to the idea that I was talking about before, about if we're thinking negative thoughts, if we're having disempowering thoughts, then this is going to shape our perspective and our attitude and our experience. And so the idea of self-concept is about intentionally creating the identity, or shaping, coming up with this new idea, this new concept of who we want to be, instead of this disempowering idea or identity of who we have been in the past. And so it's not creating a fake identity. It's not becoming something that we're not. It's really, I think, about becoming who we really are. And not, again, becoming, I don't like that word. It's about being who we really are, but having some sort of a concept of who that is. And so this is where looking at our values can be really helpful, looking at the things that are really important to us, where we want to spend our time, our energy, our attention, our beautiful, most precious resources. I know I say it all the time, but these are the things that can really show us what's important to us, where we place our time and energy, and where we want to place our time and energy. Like I said before, I no longer want to be a consumer of social media. I want to be a creator. I want to share what I'm up to, share my lessons, my journey, my practices, my teachings. And so in order to do that, I need to reshape the way I see myself. I need to restructure this concept of who I believe myself to be, and it's essentially making a decision about who we want to be moving forward. And so I really encourage you to spend some time thinking about this new self-concept that you want to create for yourself, and how this can be empowering, how this can really be the most authentic, true expression of who you really are, without all that self-doubt, without all the things that get in the way, comparison, perfectionism, all of these things, negative self-talk that can really take us away from that. The last thing that I will talk about is meditation, and how meditation can be so helpful in reinventing ourselves, recreating ourselves, and really just showing up as ourselves. Because again, like I said before, it can help us to quieten down some of that outside noise. It can help us to create some space in our lives to come back to ourselves, to slow down, to quieten down that chatter, that incessant noise that can happen mentally, especially if we're looking at all of the different things we see around us. Social media, I mean, we're taking in so many messages, so much information. We're taking in so much more than we ever used to. And so I think it's more important than ever to create some space in our lives where we can just slow it down a little bit, and to check back in with our own internal voice, and things like our intuition, our higher self, that true self that really knows what action to take, what steps we need to do, again, the intentions that we want to set for ourselves. So I have created a meditation for clarity. It's already up on my channel. I'll leave it linked below, and I'll leave it tagged if you want to go watch it now. It's just a really beautiful practice to create a bit of space, to create a bit of silence, and slow down a little bit, to check back in, and to get clear on who you want to be, to get clear on what you want to focus on, to get clear on the areas of your life that may feel a little out of alignment, and that's okay. There's no judgment there. This is a really important thing actually to mention, is letting go of judgment. I think that so often when we want to make a change in our lives, when we want to reinvent ourselves, we can get so caught up in judging who we've been in the past. But you don't have to be that person anymore. You are free to let that go in any moment. You are free to decide right here and now, this is no longer who I want to be. And this really is what letting go is. This really is what forgiveness is letting go of who we thought we were in order to be who we really are. And so I really encourage you to practice not judging yourself. Sure, you may not be where you want to be, and that's okay. Use that as motivation. Use that as inspiration to set out now on a new trajectory, to set out on a new path, to give yourself permission to create a new life for yourself. And I'm going to be actually talking about how to create a better vision for your life this year moving forward very soon. It's one of my most popular podcast episodes, and so I'm going to recreate that for YouTube and for the podcast for anyone who wants to create a better vision for your life. And I know that can be scary. It can be really scary to think bigger. It can be really scary to see what kind of possibilities we want, because we can have all kinds of doubts and fear of failure, and all of these things can come up when we start to think and dream bigger for ourselves. But you deserve that, you really do. And so I'm looking forward to sharing more about that soon. I am going to leave it here now. I feel like I've talked a lot. There's been a lot of information here. Allow yourself some time to let it sink in. Allow yourself some time to reflect. Allow yourself to take a bit of a step back. I know often, and I feel the same way, we can think that we need to start the new year, hit the ground running, and really just kind of step into the new year as this entirely new person. And it's just, again, not sustainable. Take your time, move at your own pace, go slowly, set those intentions, get clear on what it is that's important to you, get clear on your ins and your outs, get clear on what it is that you really want to create for yourself and who you really want to be moving forward, and just take your time. Go gently. There is no rush and there is no destination. This is a journey. We are all on a journey. And even though time doesn't really exist, because the present moment is all we ever have access to, I do believe that these signposts, these times, like a new year, things like a birthday as well, can often be a time where we want to kind of pause and reflect and take stock. I think they're beautiful opportunities to do that, to get really clear and to take some time to be more intentional and to connect back with ourselves. And I'm laughing because levity is going to be one of the energies that I'm bringing into the new year, not taking myself or life too seriously. So I'm sending you so much love. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And I'm wishing you all the very best in the new year. I am wishing for you to just remember who you are. And I really hope that my content and what I share and create this year will help and support you to do that. So again, thank you so much. If you're new, please subscribe, follow along, and I'm wishing you all the very best. Okay, take care. See you soon. Bye.